This evening was made possible by this wonderful grant that we received through the Ruderman Foundation. The Ruderman Foundation is supporting Boston area communities in creating inclusive synagogues and other community centers. They're doing wonderful work in the area, and this night we are using part of that support to bring this conversation and bring this piece to you. So following the presentation, following the dialogue, there will be a special ONET that has sensitivity to allergies and to those who need inclusive eating. So please join us and please stay for our ONET afterwards. So with great pleasure, I'm inviting up to our Bima, Nataly Zukerman, who is a Jewish Israeli performance artist who produces projects in the field of disability arts. She is doing tonight a combination between presentation and performance from her seminal work, The Other Body, where she talks about her own unseen disability. I will let her work stand for itself, and then we'll have a chance to all reflect. Shabbat shalom. Welcome to Nataly.
Thank you so much for letting me speak on Shabbos night. I'm really excited about it. My name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident. Not a car accident, a rather stupid accident, well, I think anyway, an accident in the Scouts. We went to a summer camp up in the north of Israel, and we built, in accordance with the annual issue that was the Israeli army, we built a tank from big logs of wood. This is where we all slept. It was Saturday morning, and I was sent to the kitchen to work. Now, the kitchen was very far away from where we were. And I was quite scared of people I didn't know. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm quite timid, people I don't know even today. So I lied. I said I had to bring something out of my bag. When I entered the tank, I heard, "Nataly, watch out." And then the structure of the tank fell on me. I broke a vertebra in my back. I was paralyzed. I was hospitalized for 6 months, and I had to learn to walk again. And I walked with crutches until I was about 16. Even today, it still affects me. I limp, I can't run, I can't jump, and I can't climb the stairs without any help.
You don't look disabled. Do you need any help? Oh, honey, what happened to your leg? Oh, I didn't notice it until now. You're amazing. It's amazing how much you have overcome. That's why you didn't go to the army? It's their loss.
keep forgetting it over and over again. Get well soon.
Hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the Scouts and I broke a vertebra in my back. At night at the hospital, Dr. Hanani, 1 meter and 90 centimeters, 6'2", said to my mom, my mom asked her, would she dance again? If she walks again, I will be pleased. I broke vertebra L1 that is located around here. It was broken completely and was thrown into the trash. It was replaced with a bone taken from here, my left pelvis, around here. The vertebra above it got twisted and it had to be put back in its place. The surgeon took and tied the two vertebrae together, the new and the old, and put metal plates on both sides of my spine, and left me with a scar. I had an X-ray a few years ago, and they found out that one of them is broken. Professor Deckel, January 1994. Scar length is 23 centimeters at the back of the spine in the thoracolumbar area. The scar is slightly ugly. Also, 10% permanent disability, not functional, due to the long scar on her back, according to section 75 on 1 on B.
Move your toe. Come on, you can do it. My mother at my hospital bed, Rambam Hospital, July 1990. I always worry the most about you. My dad moving to a new flat, 2012. Do you need a hand? My friends, all the time. Why do you need to use the crutches? I'll help you walk. My first serious boyfriend, age 15, 1994. Who volunteers to bring me coffee? Of course, I'm not going to ask you to do it. Senior lecturer at Tel Aviv University, 2013. Stop the train. She's disabled. My friend Tashi, Edinburgh Railway Station, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, 2004. Is your leg okay? If you need anything, I'm an orthopedist. A stranger, the corner of Burgershab and Beni Yehuda Streets, age 24, 2002.
Hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the Scouts and I broke a vertebra in my back. I was paralyzed. I was hospitalized for 6 months. I had to learn to walk again. And I walked with crutches until I was about 16. Even today, it still affects me. I limp, I can't run, I can't jump, and I can't climb the stairs without any help. March 91 until 1992, Dr. Shemesh, Professor Melamed, Professor Shako, aged 13. There is no doubt that her physical limitation undermined and disrupted her everyday routine and her integration in different social settings. She would be given psychological evaluation and follow-up support once or twice a week to accompany her integration in various social settings. In the X-ray given to her on her release date from the hospital, a satisfactory recovery of the fracture was shown. She does not participate in sports lessons, she doesn't go to the beach, and she doesn't go on school trips. The plaintiff will be able to work at a job that requires standing and walking. She'll be able to work full-time, only in a position that will allow her to sit down according to her education and skills. The plaintiff seems to be mentally stable, and there is no need for therapy. In 2000, I moved to Scotland to study performance. In the first scene of one of the shows I performed in, there was a runway models, and we were asked to walk like runway models. Pamela, the director, she's a very good friend of mine, she came and asked me if I would mind to open the runway in order to exercise my limb in comparison to what we would say the normal walk of the other performers, runway models. It was a great success. Everyone thought I was a former model. So the next night she came to me and she said, would you mind exaggerating your limb? It didn't really work last night, no one noticed it. A social walker, Gidon Haas, December 1992, aged 13. In my opinion, this is a girl who is highly motivated, socially accepted by her peers, and is not feeling sorry for herself. She doesn't suffer from depression, she doesn't keep to herself, and I think she accepted the situation in a very positive way. In my opinion, supported also by Professor Shako, she does not need therapy or psychotherapy. Moreover, I think the victim can serve as an example of a successful rehabilitation. When she will grow up, she will acquire a profession and will become a positive role model in society. Until a few years ago, I used to go on quite a lot of blind dates. And I don't want to sell them a pig in a poke, because eventually the question arises, what happened to your leg? And then what do I say? So I want to share with you a story about a date I had with this guy called Tal. We arranged to meet in a cafe, and by the time he got there, I already sat down. He was really good looking, quite tall, blonde, and I think he liked me too because we flirted. And while we were talking, he was asking me what am I working on, and I told him about the Other Body, my show, about my accident. And as I'm talking, I noticed how he seems deeper and deeper into his chair. His facial expression moved between discomfort and agony. Tal, is everything okay? I feel like I'm drowning, but you go ahead, you go ahead and speak, it's not my story, it's yours. Oh, come on, Tal, it's nothing. It's a story I've been telling since I'm 12, at least once a week. Hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the scout, and I broke about to my back, I was paralyzed, I was hospitalized for 6 months, I had to, it's nothing. It doesn't feel like it's nothing. Not really the kind of answer you're looking for in your first date. But somehow, I managed to get us through it. We talked about Shakespeare and Hamlet, if it's relevant to stage it today or not relevant to stage it today, but it wasn't really the same. When we got up to leave, my leg really shivered. Now go and explain to him that when I'm nervous, my legs shiver much more and therefore I limp much more. Yes, I can see that you're limping. Well, quite positive that that was the end of the day, but then he turned around and said, do you want me to come over? No. I mean, I have to get up pretty early tomorrow morning. Do you want to come maybe another night? Silence. You know what, Sam? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a kiss on the cheek, a hug, and I'm going to go. Is that okay? Okay.
It's all in your head. You want to take part in extreme sports to disabled people? You're not disabled. But everyone here walks really fast. Can you pick up the pace? Does it bother you when you have sex? Does it hurt? Do you think that because you're limping, you're not sexy? Women don't care about men's scars, but for men, it's important that their women will be physically perfect. It's biological or something. It really doesn't bother me. I love your scars. You're amazing.
This was a part of a show called The Other Body. And today, I would like to share with you my journey of coming out of the disability closet journey. And through that, to talk about the Israeli society and its perception of the disabled. I will have to sit down, if that's okay, because it's hard for me to stand for a long time. So I hope it's okay with everyone. I've got this chair here. Okay. Well, as you know, my name is Nataly Zukerman. I think I've said it once or twice already. And I'm a performance artist. I do actually many things, but in the last few years, I made two shows. One called The Other Body, and the other one called Practice Makes Perfect. Those two shows can be placed under the category of what you can say disability arts or artability. I have to say that it's a non-existent category in the Israeli theater scene. We don't even have a name or a title for it. And today I want to talk about how my identity as a disabled artist became that kind of identity. And it's a product of a long process of self-acceptance, and the product of a long process of coming out because at the age of 34. And you might ask yourself, why it took me so long? Good question. Why it took me so long? To find myself, putting myself center stage, lifting a sign over my head, defining that I'm disabled. So, like any good story, we will start at the beginning. I was born in 1978, almost 40 years ago. The eldest daughter out of three to North David in Israel, a small village, white picket fence, had a really good childhood. And I was a very creative child, and I loved singing and dancing. My aunt likes to say that in every family occasion, I made everyone, the whole of my family, dance the hokey pokey. That was kind of my thing. And my dad, actually, we found a tape that I did when I was a child, and I record many songs like I'm in the Eurovision, and I sing them happily and loudly. And I danced. I danced in every ballet studio in the area where I grew up. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a ballerina until I was injured. I even remember I had a massive row with my dance teacher. She didn't want to let me learn how to stand on my toes like a ballerina because I was too young. But I took so offense to it. I was so hurt that my mom had to make amends between the two of us in order for me to come back. So that's what I wanted to be, a ballerina. And I was a very physical girl, it wasn't just dancing. I was in the running team at school. I was practicing gymnastics. And I was the one who walked the fastest. From all my friends, from my family, from everyone. And my physicality was really a part of my identity. You know, that identity that you form for yourself at that age, exactly that age. And then I got injured. But before I continue with the story, I want to tell you a little bit about my injury, because you haven't really seen it so far. My doctors like to explain it as follows. When an able person would like to take a step or walk, your brain sends a command through the spinal cord, which is an electrical conductor, and you take a step. You don't really think about it, you just do it. In my case, my electrical conductor is damaged. So it means that when I want to take a step, my brain sends a command, but instead of going right through, there is a short circuit, a hiccup. So if you notice me later walking, you will see my leg trembling. It's very subtle, especially when I've got my shoes on and everything, but you will be able to see it. And then you will never forget it, as I would like you to, maybe. So after I just want to say that the feeling that I have most of the time is that I can't trust my own legs. Because I always feel like I'm going to fall. I don't know if you know that feeling of not really being able to trust your own body, but that's kind of how I feel since I'm 12. So I was injured, and that meant I would not be a ballerina, and I didn't want to talk about dancing anymore, or to even do any physical activities. I just wanted to put that aside and not think about it at all. At hospital, in the bed next to me, was Tamar Borel. Borel is a very well-known dancer, choreographer in the Israeli dance scene. And she was injured in a car accident and she remained paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair. And she's very strong and quite scary, and I was much younger than her, but I adored her from afar. When she was released from the hospital, she continued to make work, and she makes work until today, and she dances in a wheelchair. And I continue to adore her from afar. A few years after my release from the hospital, I met my old dance teacher. And she told me that she just went to see Tamar perform. And I wanted to know how it was, because I couldn't understand how someone in a wheelchair can dance. And I was really excited to hear her answer. And she said to me, Tamar should leave the dancing for the dancers, and what she does, that's not considered to be dancing. And I was 14, and that really stayed with me for a very, very long time. Because I believed her. You know, the stage is for those who can. And I couldn't. And that was that. So I was released from the hospital, wearing my crutches. I had crutches until I was 16, like I said before. When you're a teenager and you have crutches, it's a very complex and intimidating experience, because everyone's looking at you and staring at you the whole time. And it's exactly the age that you don't want anyone to stare at you. And I had doctors examining me on a weekly basis, physiotherapists that touched me, private investigators on behalf of the Social Security Office or different insurance companies, people down the street, kids at school, everyone was pointing at me. gossiping, talking, and I wanted to disappear and to dance. So instead of dancing, I decided on study acting. And my mom enrolled me to this acting class. And I had to do an audition first. But I will never forget that day. It was a big auditorium, and I had my crutches on, and I was walking down the stairs toward the stage, and there was one woman, she was the teacher, the drama teacher, she was sitting there, and then I walked up the stairs to the stage, put my crutches aside, sat in a chair exactly like this, and the whole of the auditorium was blacked out, and there was one light, and it was on me. And I started my monologue, and my teacher looked at me. And it was the first time, after a very, very long time, that I enjoyed someone watching me. Because I was in control of the gaze. When I'm on stage, I control what you see and how you see of me. At the outside world, I don't have that control. I can't control it. And that's a very scary feeling to have. When you're a disabled person, you perform on a daily basis. Let's take, for example, a person in a wheelchair boarding a bus. The driver has to stop the bus, take the ramp, open the back door, take the ramp out. In Israel, at least, it's literally, physically has to take it out. Put it on a small stage. And then the person in the wheelchair has to go on the bus and everyone look at him. Which means they're all looking at him like he's an actor. So think of it, especially when you're a teenager, how intimidating and terrifying that kind of feeling can be. So I decided at the age of 16, when my doctor said that's fine, to put them aside and to start walking without them. And I felt great because finally no one noticed I was disabled straight away and I could get away with it. But I have to say that people that knew about my disability were very supportive. Like my school, for example. I had a special car drive taking me every day to school. Due to my back pains, I didn't come to school a lot. So my tutors, they knew it and they proved it in advance. I had good grades also, but they were really lovely about it. As I said, I can't run or do very physical activities, so I was exempt from a sports lesson. I was also exempt from high school trips because, again, that involved walking and hiking and many things. But I want to show it to you from a new perspective. At the time, it really felt that they accommodated my needs, but it meant that except studying, I didn't do almost anything. So I was excluded from almost any activities besides studying. That really left me at home alone. It was very hard for me to find ways to, have friends at school, for example. Now, today I'm myself a teacher, and I teach in high school, and I'm on the other side of the spectrum. And I can't help it by wondering, wasn't it just the easiest way out? I have to say, I didn't say anything. I said, I can't do it. And they were like, oh, if you can, that's fine. Sit aside. But maybe they could have think outside of the box. I was the child and they were the grown-ups. What about, let's take sports lessons, for example. I might not be able to run, but I do Pilates and yoga really well. So they could have changed the curriculum in order for me to take part. Or school trips. Okay, so I can't hike, go on a big mountain, but I can go to a museum. Or they could have changed the route so I'd be able to take part. But I didn't want to be a burden. Why should everyone suffer just because I can't do something? So we all agreed that it would be better if I stay at home. Finishing school at the age of 18, positive that in Israel you go to the army at the age of 10, at the age of 18, excluded again, being told I can't be drafted to the army. So I decided, well, I want to study acting. That also turned out to be a bit problematic. I found many acting schools. In one of the biggest schools in Israel, I was asked why I didn't go to the army. Again, told them my story, my injury, and they asked me if I can take part in movement classes. I said, I don't think so. And they said to me, well, we're really, really sorry, but it means that you won't even be able to come to an audition. And I, again, agreed with them. I did go into one school, to the preparatory program. Not the first year, but let's see what you can do. No, don't get me wrong, I know, my affiliate will always live. And the perception is that, you know, an actor needs to be able to embody different characters. It needs to be versatile. So on one hand, an actor needs to be a chameleon, but on the other hand, there's the thing called typecast. So how many living characters there are? Oedipus, Richard III, maybe one or two, but that's it. And even then, I was trying to think, in the Israeli theater scene, I never seen disabled performers. Not in the dance scene also, and not also in the cinema. And that, you're right, that was 20 years ago. And we can say that maybe things have changed. But even today, deaf characters are played by hearing actors. Or I read an article with an emerging disabled actress a year ago. That's my definition of her. She might not call herself like that. And she was talking about her ordeal to get into one of the acting schools in Israel. And that was 5 years ago. She tried to get in and she got rejected many times. In the last audition, she lied. She said that she twisted her ankle. She got in. 2 weeks later, when they realized her twisted ankle is not going away, she was called to the head of the drama school and was told she's on probation. Not because she lied, because they weren't sure that there's room for a disabled actress in the Israeli theater scene, so they'll have to see. So that was kind of the message I got. You can't be in front of the stage and you have to be at the back. So, okay, I can do directing. So I decided to go and study directing at Seminary Kibbutzim College. But that also includes, you have to do movement classes again. And I didn't want to do that, and it was, you know what, I didn't even want to watch it. It was too painful because I missed so many things because I can't do it. And it was too painful, I didn't want to do it. But something changed in my last year. In my last year, one of my professors asked us as a class to create a theatrical event in which we introduce ourselves to our classmates. Now, we've been together for 3 years, so I was like, what can I introduce that they don't know about me? And I decided to put myself on stage, not to be in a character, and to perform actions I never did before, like dancing. So it was like this kind of stage, and I danced and I asked people from the audience to come and dance with me. And in another segment, I exposed my back, and I asked people to come and color paint my scars. And the reactions were unbelievable. And I was like, wow, maybe I'm actually good at it? And I enjoyed it. And I haven't enjoyed performing on stage for such a long time. So not so long after that, I decided I'm moving to Scotland and to study performance. I really wanted to study abroad for many, many years. Both of my parents studied. My dad studied in UCLA. My mom studied in London, not in the art scene at all, but they did, so something I always wanted to do. And because I was really sheltered as a child, because of my injury, it was my way of becoming independent. And I studied Divine Theatre and Performance Art, which was based on group work and collaborative process. And on the first lesson of the first day, we had to play tag. Now, tag involved running, so I can't run. So I had to go and to say to my professor, I'm really sorry, hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. My injury is like this, and my situation is this, and is that okay if I'll sit aside? Because that's what I do, I always sit aside. I don't know if you know, but it brings a lot of anxiety every time that I have to tell my story. On every first occasion that I meet someone, I have to tell them. Especially in sports lessons or when I'm studying or especially in the acting scene. And that's obviously just anxiety from that, which is, just to remind you, I just started, new school in a new country without my support system. So my anxiety levels were quite high anyway. And most of the time when I say to people about my disability, they're like, of course, sit aside, that's fine, no bother. But he didn't say it. He just went and asked me many, many questions and then said, here you have to take part. We will have to invent new rules for the game. The game won't define who we are, we will define the game. And that meant, and obviously I realized what it meant many years later, but that meant that the rules of the game can be changed. And I never thought about it. And those rules can encounter everyone, those who can. There isn't those who can and those who can't. We just have to be very creative in finding those new rules. So it meant that I had to start participating in movement classes. But my professors were from the acting department. And I remind you that actors need to be very versatile. So it was very hard for them to accommodate me. It was hard for them to adapt exercises. It was hard for them to find beauty in the way I did exercises, even if they weren't the same as they want me to. And they had to accept the fact that even if I can't perform those exercises, it doesn't mean I can't be an actress. Of course I can. But they were really trying. I could see that they were trying. And I remember one specific time that one of my professors gave us an exercise to perform a dance that we choreographed ourselves. And I made a dance with a chair, my best friend, my chair. And I remember his surprised look on his face. It was good. I was really good. And that really helped me to gradually shed this idea of I have to be behind the scenes. I have to stay there. I actually have, maybe even if I'm not appropriate to the right criteria of how an actor should be, my body is present and is beautiful and it can be on stage. Around that time I also realized that I never associated the word disabled with my situation. Never think about it, because I didn't live in a society or in an area where anyone treated me like that. You know what? I told you before about my car drive to school every morning. I had other disabled kids with me. I don't remember any of their names. I excluded myself from them. I wrote a diary when I was injured, and it says, I refer to myself there as being almost disabled. Because Liat, the girl who was lying next to me in the hospital, she was in a wheelchair, and that was final, but I wasn't. She was the miserable one, and I was the one that got away. Also, the patients in the hospital, they excluded me from that position because I could walk. And the doctors and the physiotherapists were really kind of investing in my walking again. So that was the atmosphere I grew up in. I was the girl with the limb maximum. That was that. So at that point I decided that I need to claim that word. I need to start saying it about myself in order to understand my situation, my physicality. And I moved back to Israel, and I remember referring to myself for the very first time to some of my friends as being disabled, and they were really mad at me. They were jumping out the chairs, and I've had that many, many times since. It's like, why are you so upset about it? And I was actually quite happy about it at the same time, because, it's a little thing, it's not really serious. But then at the same time, I was like, why are they so upset? And I wanted to understand. So I started to go on a little research. And I realized that the world is divided into two groups of people. Those who are disabled now, and those who will be disabled in the future. We are all here on the disability spectrum. Think about it. Hip replacement, some of us. A caretaker, a nursing home. And I think that's why we are so scared of it. We are so scared of the disabled because we know that we can be them. And that's why the fear of it is so deep and unsettling. And I wanted to make work about it, and I wanted to make work about my disability and about my physicality. And I was trying to think, where does my disability performs itself in the everyday life? At home, it doesn't. My home is accommodating to my needs. But the minute I step outside, that's where my disability head appears again. My biggest enemy is the staircase. Any staircase. I hate staircases. Because if you, well, most of you probably don't think about it. You just go up and down the stairs. I have to really think about it, and I have to use the railing. One of the most scary moments of my life is when I go to a staircase and there's like a sign on the railing saying fresh paint. I'm like, and then I have to walk up like 2 steps at a time for each level, and I look like I'm a 2-year-old, and everyone's looking at me, and then I feel disabled again. So I wanted to make a piece about it because I realized that the staircase is what makes me disabled. The staircase is a barrier fence between those who can be able and those who can't be disabled. And if the whole of our streets will be built as a spiral, we don't have that barrier fence. We can all walk together. Well, at least for that specific bit, that's sorted. And I wanted to make a piece, and I found the most crowded staircase I could find, and I wore my black, beautiful dress. And I started to walk up and down. I tucked my abs in, and I tried to walk like an able person. And every time I didn't manage to take a step correctly, I had to do it again. So it became a 3-hour show, a durational piece, because it took me a while. I was invited to perform it in the Jerusalem Cinematheque. I don't know if you've been there, but if you've been there, there's a huge staircase in there. I can see people go like that. There's a huge staircase in the middle. So I was invited. It was part of a disability art festival. Remember that? So I walked up and down with my beautiful dress in the middle of the staircase. And obviously I was much slower than everyone else. So I became kind of the element that interferes with the flow of the crowd. People shouted at me, "Get out of the way." Again, remind you, we're in a disability art festival. I was asked politely also if I to move aside, or maybe I would like to take the lift. And I could see from the corner of my eye this guy standing. He was with his crutches, and I did it for about 3 to 4 hours. And at the end he came and spoke to me. And he told me he had cerebral palsy, and that what I've been through in the last 4 hours, that's what he's been through on a daily basis. Because he said to me, I don't want to take the elevator, I want to take the steps. And those are the kind of things that I get shouted every day. It was the very first time that a person that we will all define as disabled said to me that we share the same experience, that we share the same feelings. And I realized I have community. Only at the age of 30-something, I realized I have a community. And I need to stop hiding. When I was 19, a day before a trip to New York, my first time, I bumped into my parents' coffee table, and I sprained my pinky toe. That's obviously not connected to my injury, but because of that, I couldn't really walk properly, and I had to take my crutches with me. Thank you, crutches. I didn't have to stand in any of the queues at JFK. I didn't have to stand in any of the queues to Phantom of the Opera or to the Statue of Liberty. It was a great holiday. The crutches gave me an inner and outer affirmation that I need help, standing and walking. But without those crutches, I always feel that no one would believe me, that I need help. And I used to hear two adjectives a lot, that I'm tired and that I'm lazy, most of my years. And those are things that really seep into your personality. So I realized that no matter what, if I've got crutches on or not, I have to claim my rights. I have to stop hiding. And I understood that for a person with an invisible disability, staying in the closet is not because he wants to hide. It's actually because of his inability to expose himself, to say this is me, because this is part of the way we look at oppression. And I was excluded. I was excluded, and I excluded myself because I believed the society and the gaze of them on me. I adopted it. I thought they were right. So that's why only at the age of 34 I decided that enough was enough. And I decided to put my black dress on and to make a show about it called The Other Body. And I found myself standing there many, many years at center stage with the sign disabled above my head. My story is a very small story, but it says something about the Israeli society. I don't know how much you know about the perception of the disabled in Israeli society, but I would like to tell you an anecdote that happened to one of my good friends a few weeks ago. He had a massive argument with another friend about the diversity of the political group in Israel, their force in society. And obviously they were talking about the Palestinians and the Haredim and the this and that. And then he said, what about the disabled people? And she went, they're not a political group. They don't have any force. They're a group. So that's kind of the way the Israeli society. And she's academic. She's got a master's in theater, but still. We started the Little Revolution this year. Israeli disabled people get pension. Their pension, if you're entitled to it, it's just a bit more than $600. That's what they get. And from that pension, they're supposed to pay for everything, all the things, obviously not the things that the government gave them, but rent, everything else. But if they want to work, they can't earn more than $600. Because if they'll earn more than $600, the same amount will be taken from their pension. So a few groups of disabled people in Israel decided that can't keep going on. And because no one listened to us, we had to go to the streets, and we started blocking main roads in Israel to the airport and to the government offices and many other roads. And gladly, we got what we wanted. It might not be enough, but we managed to double the pension. And we managed to get a promise, it's not signed yet, because the Israeli government, but we managed to get a promise that we will not get our sums come down of it, even if we don't work. So that's what's going on at the minute at the Israeli society regarding the disabled people. I would like to really thank you for hearing me today and letting me be part of the Shabbat. Thank you very much.